to Bill Flynn in the morning.
Well, I'm just doing what I advise you to do on the show. I'm going to growinggreen.com this morning and I want to welcome Jonathan Rigsbee, the TurfCommander, back for another installment with us this morning on the Eagle Info Hour. And good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning, Bill. How are you this morning?
I am good. I want to start out with what I think everybody is noticing and feeling and even talking about today. And that, we've been talking about the change in the weather and this time of year. And really, maybe for the first time, a lot of folks, you get the feel that the little taste of fall in the air today. Did you feel it too?
I did. And, watching the weather this morning, hearing that it's the first day of fall, basically, and the weather's changing, and it's time to get going.
It gets real, though, when, we can think about, well, when the weather changes, or we're going to do this, or, doing things around the lawn prep. And for a lot of folks, you can think ahead and map it out. Certainly that's what you do. But I do think that for a number of people, all of that's kind of academic until the weather changes, until you feel it.
Well, it is. And we see a lot of people, all seasons, when it's spring and the sun comes out, they're outside. When it's summer, starts getting hot, they go inside. Now that the fall's kind of come and the leaves are going to start falling, people are out ready for fall, ready for harvest festivals, just ready for the fall activities that they normally do. And now's a great time to do what you need to do in the lawn to get ready for winter and especially next spring.
Well, let's talk a little bit of more detail about those things that, we're maybe even more focused on. You've touched on some of them in our previous show, but what are the big three things that we need to really be focusing on right now? And if we don't do it now, springtime comes, we're going to have a less beautiful lawn than we otherwise could have.
Well, obviously the biggest thing in our region right now is aeration and seeding. And what I want to do today, too, is also dispel some myths that we see out there among the public and seeding their lawn. And one of the biggest ones we see is a lot of people go out and they'll plug their lawn this time of the year and they'll throw the seed out, and it's all about the little hole. It's all about getting that seed in the hole. And in our heavy clay soils, if you run a plugger over your lawn one time and the grass comes up in the hole, it's not really going to spread and fill in. So one of the biggest things that we want to kind of dispel is that one pass aeration that we see. A lot of our competitors do it. A lot of homeowners do it. They go over it one time and they think they're done. And unfortunately, our soils are so tight and compacted, you've got to go over that lawn 3 or 4 times to really make a dent in it and really open up the soil and let the roots breathe and let them have a chance to fill in.
Just on that topic, when you do a couple of 3 passes or 4 passes, whatever you're suggesting, do you recommend you go horizontal and then diagonal and then vertical? I mean, does it matter that direction of the aeration that you're doing?
It doesn't. I think in your mind it does. I think everybody's kind of, they go the same direction. They think they're not doing anything. So our guys always kind of go different directions. Sometimes we'll go, around in a circle if the lawn's small. Sometimes we'll go back and forth. But the biggest thing is just getting that soil broken up and just going over it and over it and over it and over it until it's broken up to a point where really you don't see the holes, you just see loose dirt. And one of the other big myths that we get calls on every year is, well, what do you put out first, the seed, the fertilizer, or the lime? And in reality, we put the seed out first before we even aerate. And a lot of people will do the aeration then seed. And that's something that we've researched ourselves and found that by working that seed into the soil, it has a whole lot better germination rate, and it actually plants it. So when we get a big rainstorm, you don't have to worry about it washing away. It never fails that we do a lawn, we get a huge rainstorm, and people say, oh, my seed washed away. And the first thing I want to ask them is, where did it go? The lawn's still there, the dirt's still there. It's not on the street, it's not on the sidewalk. Where did it go? Mm-hmm. And if you plant it and you put it in the ground, then it's going to stabilize itself and stay there.
I think for some, I know my first thought would be, if I put the seed down and then I aerate, I'm going to be damaging that seed. I may break it. I may keep it from being able to become a plant. Is there any truth to that? Is it pretty resilient, the seed that you use?
Well, you would really have to have the perfect storm to damage enough of that seed for you to ever notice. You have to remember that, there's 350,000 seeds in a pound. You're putting out about 5 pounds per 1,000 square foot. So you're putting out almost 1,750,000 seeds in 1,000 square foot area. So yeah, you might hit some of it with the tines, but you're not going to notice it in the long run. Most of those probably may not have germinated anyway. Or the birds may have eaten them, or they may have come up to sunburn.
How big a deal in your experience is bird, other wildlife going after seed? Is that something you have to really watch out for?
Not the way we do it, because again, we're putting it in the ground. When you're spreading it on top, then that seed's exposed to the sunlight, the birds, more wash problems. By putting it in the ground, you're getting what you need down there and you're getting it planted. And we will see seeds. Sometimes we'll see birds want to feed on the seeds, but I've never had to redo a lawn that the birds ate the seed.
Well, we didn't talk about squirrels yet.
Well, and squirrels are a whole different nut. But I will say, before we get kind of off that subject, one of the big problems we do deal with in the fall are insect problems. And about every 5 years, we deal with something called armyworms. And this is one of those years that we're seeing a tremendous amount of armyworm activity in the fescue lawns. And basically what these are is they're about 2-inch long worms that will eat your lawn to the dirt in about an hour and a half.
Now, sometimes we talk about worms being beneficial as far as, open up air to the soil. And are some earthworms a good thing for a lawn, but not the armyworms? Help me see.
Yeah, the earthworms are great. And generally when you see earthworms, you have a healthy soil. But the armyworms come in through prevailing winds. We usually see them after a hurricane or a very windy season. They'll blow in attached to a fence post, a flag post, and when they hatch, they just go to town on the most lush turf that they can find, and usually it's right there where they hatch at. A lot of people think that it comes in new sod, and that's not really the case, but it will attack a newly sodded lawn first because of how lush it is. But what we see happen is, and the reason they're called armyworms, and I'll tell you a quick story.
Okay, if you can hold that story about the armyworms, we'll take a quick break and come back and talk about this threat to our lawns right here in the area that we're talking about, which is something to be aware of. It's with growinggreen.com, the website, and our turf master, our turf commander is Jonathan Rigsbee, and we'll continue on AM 980 The Eagle. If you have a question about your lawn, now's a great time to ask as well. 896-1980.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. It's 921. We're talking about lawns. We're talking about your lawn. And we're talking with Growing Green and the Turf Commander, Jonathan Rigsbee there. And if you would like to know more, you can, this is the Love Your Lawn Hour, by the way. And if you would like to know more, you can go to the website, growinggreen.com. That's growing, growinggreen.com. And the phone number there, if somebody wants to check you out and get some information, I know it's Lawn Help, right?
It is. It's 866 Lawn Help. It's a toll-free call from anywhere in the Triad.
Right before the break, Jonathan, you're getting ready to tell us a story, and it had to do with the armyworms and our discussion about worms in general. So go ahead, if you will.
Well, and the one fortunate thing that here in the Triad, we don't deal with a lot of insect problems. If people have lived other parts of the country, they've dealt with mole crickets, and they've dealt with cutworms and armyworms in those areas. And we're very fortunate that really the white grub is really our big nemesis in the lawn. But about every 5 years, we get these armyworm attacks. And when they attack, they attack. And the story I was going to tell you was I had a great customer about 10 years ago, and she called me one day, and she said, my lawn's gone. I said, what do you mean it's gone? She said, well, we sat out here and had dinner last night. It was beautiful. And I woke up this morning and it's gone. It's nothing but dirt. And I didn't know what to say to her. I said, well, I'll drive right on over there and let's look at it and see what's going on. So I get over there and these armyworms are marching up the driveway. And and that's where they get their name from. They march like an army. And they had devoured her back lawn down to the dirt overnight.
In a matter of hours, the damage.
Matter of hours.
And this is a lawn that, could have been years in the making easily, right?
Yeah, she had actually had it sodded a couple of months earlier. And I think that's why they attacked her, because it was so lush. And we were treating it, and it was a very healthy lawn. But those armyworms took it out overnight, and they were coming up the driveway to the front. And you've never seen such a flurry of activity in a neighborhood. When all the women found out about the armyworm attack, we had everybody under the sun over there. All the women were panicking about their lawns. And luckily I had a product with me to stop them, and we kind of squelched the attack. But golf course fairways, sod farms, they'll take them out within a day. And it's something everybody needs to be out really looking in their lawn as they're working in it, and they see these big caterpillars in their lawn. And the way you tell is they have a inverted Y on their head. But you will see the damage without any problem.
And are they a green looking worm?
They're kind of a brownish green.
Okay.
They're about 2 inches long. They're kind of fat. And you'll see, if you see one, you'll see 10. And
a lot of folks call them caterpillars, or look like a caterpillar with multiple legs on them, or are they actually wormy?
They're actually a worm. They're a smooth worm,
mm-hmm.
and they have stripes down the back, but they will devastate you in a heartbeat. And, if you see them, give us a call, and we can come out and treat them. If you're worried about them, you've got a lush lawn, you've just seeded your lawn and want to protect it, it's a great idea to do an insecticide as a preventative, just to prevent this from happening.
And with growing green, if I'm in an emergency mode situation and I suspect I've got the army worms, but I'm not on a regular schedule with you, can I still have you come out and handle that one-time only visit, or how does that work?
You can, and what we'll want to do first generally is come out and do a free evaluation so we know how many square foot it is. And we have 3 great salesmen that are out every day, and generally they can get by within 24 hours and look at it and evaluate your problem, evaluate if you really need it or not, and give you kind of a comprehensive analysis of your lawn. And if they do see activity, we can get somebody over there within just a matter of days at the worst. So it's, and I don't want to scare people, but there's nothing worse than putting a lot of work into your lawn in the fall and then something like this happening. And NC State has put out multiple alerts about it, and that's why we know it's a big problem right now.
You mentioned in this discussion of the armyworm and where we are with this, you mentioned the grub, the white grub, as prevalent in this part of the country, and certainly here in Forsyth County, Winston-Salem. Tell me about that, what you look for, how to know if you're suffering some damage from it, and what you can do.
Well, the white grub is the larva of the Japanese beetle. And basically what happens is the beetles lay their eggs, and then they hatch and they become a grub. And in the fall, they will feed on the roots of your lawn. So a lot of times how people will notice them is when they go out and they aerate their lawn, it'll just kind of roll up like carpet. And you'll see 5 or 6 of them laying there on the surface. And that's when you know you have a problem. The easiest way to tell if you have them is just go out in your lawn, kind of pull up on it, and if it pulls up real easy, you're going to see them laying there. And it's normal to have some grubs in your lawn. That's a total normal thing. But if you see more than 5 or 6 in a square foot, a 1-by-1 area, then you've got too many.
What is leading to them saying, all right, they're at my lawn and not yours? What is, aside from the insecticide option, I mean, are there conditions of shade and or sun and or moisture that are bringing those grub worms, those white grubs, to that particular portion of your lawn?
Not really. We see them generally everywhere, And it's more of where the Japanese beetles are and where they lay their eggs. Now, before everybody runs out and says, I'm going to put these beetle traps out everywhere and get them away from my lawn, they will actually attract them to your lawn. So the best thing to do is really control the Japanese beetle population in your trees and shrubs in the summertime, and that will greatly reduce them in the fall. Now, the problem you run into is in a lot of the subdivisions we deal with, the houses are so close to each other, you can take care of them in your lawn, and if your neighbors aren't doing anything, they're just going to come over.
Well, we may need to readdress that when we come back of that neighbor that is so close that doesn't keep their lawn. I know you've dealt with this before, and we'll see if we got any solutions on that. Coming up in just a moment on AM 980 The Eagle. Good morning.
Call now. The number is 896-1980. AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. It's the Love Your Lawn Hour with Growing Green and growinggreen.com. Turf Commander Jonathan Rigsbee is with us. 1-866-LAWN-HELP, the phone number. If you need some help with your lawn, or I think for a lot of the times, many times we may not even know our lawn is gasping for air in the way that certainly you would with the expertise. Right before we were finishing up the segment, you were talking about the issue where if you go ahead and you do something with your lawn and you live in a tightly packed neighborhood and your neighbor next door, or maybe even the lawn away because of wind patterns or what have you, you can be doing all the right things and maybe end up with some downwash of the bad habits next door. What are your suggestions in that case?
Well, we do deal with that quite a bit, and I had a recent case this summer where I have a great customer, and she was treating her lawn, but her neighbor's just full of weeds, and the weeds are coming over. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll say, if you will get permission from that homeowner, we'll treat over into their lawn a couple of feet.
So you're building a bit of a buffer.
Yeah, to kind of build a buffer to keep the weeds from encroaching over. Now, from an insect standpoint, there's not a whole lot you can do. And it's almost like shooting fish in a barrel, trying to control insects, in your lawn and hope you're going to control what's flying around the neighborhood. We do see a lot of people put these bags out trying to attract the beetles, and they trap them. And yes, they trap them, but what they do is they ended up having a nice meal on your plants before they die. So they'll come in and eat your plants and then go into those bags. Okay. So they actually do more harm than good. Really, from an insect standpoint, the best thing to do is just manage your lawn in a safe, ecological way, and just deal with them from a preventative basis. Anytime you're dealing with something preventatively, you're using a lot less product. You're using a lot safer products than trying to have to go out and just
and it puts you ahead of that snowball rather than behind it. So you're in command a little bit more rather than having to react to the crisis, which is always the lesser place you want to be. So.
Exactly. And anytime you're dealing with crisis in a lawn, there's always been damage done, and it's got to be repaired. And unfortunately, in tall fescue, you've got to do that repair. And that's why we say, if you're going to go through all the trouble to aerate and seed your lawn this fall, put an insect control down just to prevent anything from happening. It's kind of like an insurance policy for the lawn, because if you get this nice tender seed coming up and the insects eat it, guess what you've got to redo next Saturday?
Let's talk about reemphasize, I think, and maybe some points we haven't mentioned yet when it comes to seeding and fertilizing, and I want you to address lime as a question, too. All this is getting tossed around by homeowners, especially right now, this time of year.
Well, one of the biggest myths that we hear is, I'm going to aerate seed, put fertilizer out and put lime out. And that's kind of a myth that's kind of grown over the years. And there's nothing wrong with lime if you have a really, really low pH. But in absence of a soil test, when you're putting lime out at the time of seeding, it can actually tie the phosphorus up in the soil. Lime is nothing but calcium and magnesium, and they will kind of counteract the phosphorus and keep it from really doing what it needs to do with the seed that you're putting out. So we recommend doing your lime either 90 days ahead of time or in the wintertime. And one thing about lime is it can only move about 1/8 of an inch in your soil every 18 months. So it's not going to give you a lot of effect when you put it out when you do your seeding. So it's a lot better just to wait. Now, we do recommend putting out a good, well-balanced fertilizer when you do your seeding, but we also recommend following up with another one in 30 days because that seed's going to need food consistently.
I think for a lot of homeowners, that attention to detail, we tend to default to, okay, this is my weekend to do everything in the lawn for fall. And that's why that lime gets wrapped in there, because it's not the 90 days before or 30 days after, because we're going to be focused on other things quite
well,
many
and
cases.
That's exactly right. We see, people generally will go out once in the spring, once in the fall, and that's what they do to their lawn other than mow it. And unfortunately, fertilizers, anything like that's not going to last more than about 30 days. So your lawn is a living, breathing plant that needs to be constantly cared for. And a lot of times if you put too much fertilizer out thinking, well, I'm going to double up and get it to last, you're just going to lose that into the environment and into the waterways, and it's not really a great thing. So we kind of adapted a mentality of spoon feeding, and this is what golf course superintendents do to their greens, where you're giving your lawn a little bit more often, and that way it can use what you're giving it. You're not wasting it, you're not losing it into the environment, and the plant can actually use it and efficiently get the best benefit out of it.
The way you put it that way, it's much more akin to feeding fish a little bit every day than putting a salt lick out for deer. That that's a one-time thing, and you just do the salt lick and they come up. But you're really talking about this ongoing best case of development for the health of your lawn. Requires more like a fish food approach, doesn't it?
It does. It takes constant care, and it all really comes down to the level of maintenance the homeowner wants. We have homeowners that want Augusta National in their backyard, and we have homeowners that frankly just don't want to deal with it, and that's fine. Both ends are acceptable as long as your expectations are realistic on what you're going to get. And we try to be very upfront with our homeowners and setting that goal up front of what's going to happen.
We're talking about aeration and fertilizer and seed, and the point you made about lime. What about power versus manual aerators, and what is your thought on that? Because a lot of folks end up renting them or storing one in the garage. They use it once a year.
Well, most people that we see who do it themselves, a lot of times they'll go in with their neighbors and they'll rent a walk-behind aerator from local rental place. And if you've ever run one of those walk-behind pluggers, they are a beast, and they will pull you around the lawn for about half the day. And it's really not a pleasant experience, to be honest with you. Now,
if you'll hold that thought about where we go from that less than pleasant experience to an idea on how to do it, maybe a little more pleasantly, we'll get to that in just 2 minutes. It is the Growing Green Info Hour here this morning, the Love Your Lawn Growing Green Info Hour. You can visit the website, growinggreen.com. I'm Bill Flynn, back in 2 minutes.
Call now. The number is 896-1980, AM 980 The Eagle.
Good morning. It's 9:46, 14 before 10. Bill Flynn this morning. We're going to have Laura Ingram coming up here at 10 o'clock. I bet you she has a nice lawn. I bet you she has really taken care of her grass, because I know she's got a dog. I've got, by the way, just so you know, we're with Growing Green this morning, and Jonathan Rigsbee, the Turf Commander. The Love Your Lawn Hour is underway. But over the weekend, I had one of those Growing Green moments where I'm sitting in the backyard with I won't call it a rare opportunity, but one of those moments where you can really just take some time and enjoy being outside on your lawn. In my case, with 3 dogs in a fenced-in backyard, and one of them's a puppy that'll run all over, and I don't have to have a leash on her, and she can play and have a good time. I'm sitting out there with a mason jar of tee, and just that's it. I mean, it's such a great thing to do, and the whole idea of being able to love that lawn again is, I think, one of the motivations for folks, isn't it?
Well, it is, and that's one of the reasons that we kind of adapted that as our motto, that in our mission is we want to help people love their lawn again. And you think back to when you were a kid and you went out and you played in the grass and you felt the grass in your feet, and then you went into sports in high school and you had a nice, safe field to play on. We all grow up playing on grass and walking in it, living in it. And a lot of people take that for granted until it's time to do something about it. And, we call it the love affair with the American lawn. And it truly is a love affair. People really, there's something soothing about grass, and
there is, exactly, yeah.
Being out in it, it's peaceful. The birds are singing. And what we want to do is help people enjoy that again and realize that it's okay to have a nice lawn. It's not the environmental catastrophe that everybody wants to portray it as. It's actually the biggest environmental helper that you've got. It filters your water, filters your air, traps the pollutants from the air. An average lawn in a suburb can produce enough oxygen and cooling effect for a family of 4.
I had no idea. The average size lawn gives enough cooling effect and oxygen for a family of 4.
It does, and
that's a mind blower to me. I had no idea it was that significant.
And it traps pollutants. One of the best studies that has been done was there was a golf course in Greensboro a couple of years ago that NC State did a study where they tested the water coming into the golf course and they tested it coming out in a creek, and the water coming out was actually cleaner, where the golf course had filtered the pollutants out of it. And we see a lot of golf courses built on landfills, areas that otherwise would be wastelands, and they reclaim that land. There's nothing better to reclaim land than turf.
I think so often the opposite message gets understood, whether it's accurate or not, that a beautiful lawn or a beautiful golf course is an ecological disaster. And what you're just saying is, by evidence, it actually is a benefit. It actually ecologically advances the area.
It does. I mean, imagine today if all the grass around you disappeared. How would you feel when you walked outside on a summer day? How much hotter would it be in your lawn or in your dirt? Mm-hmm. Let's just get to the dirt of it, but you would have, remember the Kansas dust storms of the 30s and the 20s. If they'd had a decent turf, we wouldn't have had that. And that's what keeps it down today, is having those filters.
Well, this idea about loving your lawn again and freeing up your time to do that is so important, because I think for so many of us, our lawn has become the time trap of, gosh, I got to do this, and I think for a lot of folks to be able to be liberated of that. Right before the break, you were talking about the difference in aerators and how some of these power aerators, unless they're run by a professional, somebody does it routinely, they can really drag you around. They can do a number on you. They can be a beast to operate.
Well, and they can, and it's not just the aerators that we see. If you want to produce the same results that we produce as a professional company, apples to apples, we can do it cheaper every time. We can do it cheaper. We're going to save you time. We're going to give you better results, and you're going to be able to enjoy it instead of looking at it as a chore. Now, if you go out once a year and put fertilizer out and that's all you do versus our program, yeah, you're going to save money. But if your end result is to have a nice, maintenance-free lawn that you enjoy, then we can do it better and cheaper than you can yourself as a homeowner. Even with the advancement, the tools that are available in the Home Depots and Lowe's, they've actually gotten more expensive than what we charge to go out and do somebody's lawn.
Let me ask it from another angle. We talk about what we need to do, especially right now, this time of year, with the seeding, the fertilizing, the aeration. How long, if you started with a really nice lawn right now, I mean, golf course kind of quality lawn that you really got some beautiful fescue, and all of a sudden you say, I'm tired of spending money. I'm not going to do this anymore. How long would it take that lawn in this atmosphere in North Carolina, right around here, Forsyth County? How long would it be for that lawn just got ate up with weeds and really started looking like an embarrassment?
Well, and that's actually a great question. We see that all the time. We get homeowners who will hire us and we'll go out and get their lawn looking really good, and then they'll stop the service and think, okay, I can take care of it myself.
Yeah, I got it where I need to be, yeah.
And the first year, it looks okay. We call it the nutrient pool effect, where the nutrients we're putting in kind of pool up and the lawn can feed on them over the next year. Well, it's the second year that the weeds come in and you really see the lawn revert back to where it was. And it's really the same as turning a lawn that's full of weeds into a nice lawn. It's about a 2-year process on both sides. So we always tell customers, give us 2 years to really have a nice lawn. And if you stop doing it in 2 years, you'll be right back to where you were.
One of the things that, and I'm just going to tell you my experience and see if you, and I'm sure it applies to other homeowners. For instance, in our backyard, we have some trees in the natural area and some grass, and it's one of these, all-inclusive kinds of things. That boundary I have between the roots of the trees and the natural area and where the grass will grow, nature kind of has a lot to say about that. And when you look at, there have been times when I wanted to get the grass to grow there and have had some success. But talk to me about how to read that lawn for its maximum efficiency and where nature would have it go, and maybe also with what you want it to be.
Well, the one thing that we always say, we're not miracle workers. Just because you want grass somewhere doesn't mean it's going to happen. And if you've tried for years and haven't been successful, there's probably not a good chance that we're going to do much different. Now, so what we look at is we look at the lawn, how much sunlight. You need about 65% sunlight coming through to really have that turf survive. And so what we'll do is a lot of times, we may try to grow grass in an area for you the first year, and then we'll say, okay, it's not going to work. Let's look at other areas. The sides of houses, anywhere it becomes a path, the roots around trees. If you stand underneath the tree and you're standing on top of a root and you look up, you're going to see the drip line of that tree, which is basically how far out the tree goes. That's how far your roots go, maybe a foot or two more. So unless you've got trees that have deep roots, that's about where we draw the line at. And we'll always give it, we'll give it a shot, but generally we can look at it and tell where it's going to do well at. And we try to advise the homeowners of what's going to be successful. And one of my personal pet peeves is seeing nice grass, dirt, and then a natural area. So what we want to do is say, let's create clear boundaries in your lawn from natural areas to lawn. And doing that through pine needles, through mulch, just by trenching the bed, and just having a clear definition is one of the best things you can do to your home to make it really stand out.
And as a dog lover, I know that you are, and certainly in our case, we have 3 dogs in the house, and they kind of have their own idea of what the lawn should look like and where they want to go. And is that part of that discussion you want to have with the homeowner?
It is, and unfortunately, some dogs are more harmful to the lawn than others. And what we encourage you to do is try to move them around, try to give them, their own little space. But you're going to get areas that they're going to run paths in, especially on fences, and you're not going to be able to change that mentality overnight. So what we would encourage you to do is maybe make that a dog run. Maybe go ahead and say, all right, we're going to make that into an area with some kind of cedar chips or something that they can run in.
Well, our time is gone, but I want to encourage you to pick up the conversation by picking up the phone. 1-866-LAWN HELP is the phone number, 1-866-LAWN HELP. Visit the website, too, growinggreen.com. It's the Love Your Lawn Hour, and I want to thank Jonathan Rigsbee. This is a local company, local employees that buy and sell locally here, all to keep in mind when you're looking for that lawn service. We'll see you tomorrow.